Hey, welcome back to Woodworking with Wes. First off, I want to express my gratitude to all the well wishes of speedy recovery that I received, but I'm doing better and we're ready to get started in the shop. Today we're going to do a locking rabbet joint. I'll show you how. A locking rabbet joint is a wonderful way to make strong and accurate corners for drawers, boxes, and even cabinet construction. And I'm going to tell you the secret to making this joint work perfect. The wood we're going to be using for this, because we're going to make it as though it were a drawer, I'm using the typical drawer material that I use, which is 5/8 pre-finished Baltic birch. But this locking joint can be used in any thickness of material. We've had a lot of requests and questions about how to make this joint and make it work by the fact that you do a double rabbet cut. How do I make my sizes right in order to make my drawer or my box come out the right size afterwards? There's a secret to that, and I'm going to show it to you. Let's start off by, this is going to represent the side, this is going to represent the end or the front and back of the drawer. We start off by setting our saw blade up 1/4 of an inch, and I have it already set up 1/4 of an inch. So we've got our saw blade set up 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to set our fence at the thickness of our material. So we're going to use, let me get our glasses on so we can see. We're going to set our fence at the thickness of our material. And it doesn't really, like I say, it doesn't really make any difference what thickness your material is, but you want your saw blade set at the thickness of your material. This will be the inside, this will be the outside of our drawers. So we make this first cut on the inside of our drawer. You'll do the front and back. So if you were doing this as a side, you'd do the front and back. So let's go ahead and do that way. So we've basically made a 1/4 inch deep kerf cut the thickness of the material in from the end of our drawers. And there's our first cut. And that's what you would do on all of your drawer sides. So if you were doing a multiple set, you would take all your sides, you would do this cut first. All right, let's get set up for the second cut. Our next cut starts by raising our saw blade to the height of the little kerf cut we just made. Just like that right there. Then we're going to use our tall panel jig and move it over and get ready to make the actual rabbet cut. And here is the secret to making the drawer the right size. Now, this is Baltic birch, 5/8, but it's not a true 5/8. And whatever wood you use, whatever it is, determine what distance, how much material you would like to have here, and that determines the cut that you'll make on this. And I'll talk about that in just a second. We're going to do 1/2 inch. I want to end up 1/2 inch right here. And so I'm going to take a little rabbet cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my saw blade 1/2 inch from my tall panel jig. And you want to be exact, because this is what helps you make the correct measurements on your determining the correct measurement when you do your drawer. Okay, we put a stop block on our tall panel jig, and we've also cut a notch out of our tall panel jig so that we can push this through the saw. Let's watch and do that. With our rabbet now cut and our kerf cut, you can see the joint that we have. We have a notch here, and we have this leftover piece right here that will be where the drawer hooks together. Let's measure that and make sure that that was 1/2 inch, just like we talked about. And there it is, exactly 1/2 inch. Now, if you wanted to check yourself as you're doing multiples, put these pieces back to back and measure, and this should be exactly 1 inch. Okay, here's the secret to making your drawers the right size. When we make our next cut, we want to make sure that we cut our end piece 1/2 inch or 1 inch less than the overall width of the drawer. So let's do some math. Let's say our drawer is 10 inches wide. Our back piece, after we end up putting the rabbet on, is going to be 9 inches because we have 1/2 inch on both sides. But we need to have a little ear for our notch here, and that's where our 1/4 inch deep. This is now 1/8 of an inch deep. So 10 inch wide drawer, 9 inch back, but 9 1/4 inches for the full cut. So I would cut this piece 9 1/4 inches. It's going to end up going in here like this, but it's going to have a little pin on it. So let's kind of draw out what we're doing here. We're going to take a little cut out like that, and there's going to be a little notch, or a little pin. Now we'll call it a pin. And that pin is going to fit inside that little kerf cut that we made. Let's get set up and make that cut. We have raised our saw blade up to 1/8 of an inch less than the thickness of our material. Our kerf cut is the width of a saw blade, which is 1/8 of an inch, and that's why we're leaving a 1/8 of an inch space at the top. We've set our saw blade to that. We've installed a sacrificial fence on our saw because we're going to be right up tight against that when we make our cut. Let me get that set and then we'll make that cut. I used a piece of scrap to make sure that I had my saw set exactly where I wanted it to. It's tied up against the sacrificial fence, and the blade is raised to the height of making our little pin just the exact right size. Remember, this is the amount of material we want to take out. So let's go ahead and do that. I ran it twice just to make sure that it was nice and clean, but let's go ahead and put our locking rabbet joint together. Oh, look at that. Look at that, how that fits together. And it just makes such a nice clean inside and a nice smooth outside. And because we did our measurement here and calculated our width of our drawer, now we could put this together with either glue or nails from the outside. You could actually put a little glue on there and clamp it, and that's a good strong joint right there, just like that. And that is a locking rabbet joint. I've even heard it called a locking double rabbet joint. It can be both ways, and if there's an official name for it, I don't know. This is what we've always called it. But anyway, there you are. That's how you make a locking rabbet joint for drawers, boxes, even cabinets. Well, I hope you enjoyed our video on a locking rabbet joint. It's a great addition to your woodworking skills. Also, by the way, check us out on woodworkingwithwes.com. On our website. You'll enjoy what we have there too. And I'll see you next time on Woodworking with Wes.